Hello, you. Let me ask you something. Why haven't you subscribed to ClassHorrorCast yet? Do you think I'm not gonna notice? Well, I see everything. And I see you wetting your pants right now. The question isn't, should you subscribe to ClassHorrorCast or not? The question is, did I just subscribe you? Now enjoy the show. I'll be watching.
Welcome back to another episode of ClassHorrorCast. I'm your host Aran, and in this week's show I'm joined by creator of Nostalgia Video, Nick Collins. Wander the aisles once more, whether you want to shop, read some articles, or just browse through pictures of incredible nostalgia. Nostalgia Video is the place for you. Nick and myself talk about collecting and nostalgia, forgotten horror movies, and the golden era of wrestling. Get ready to journey back in time with Nostalgia Video. So Nick, first of all, thanks for coming on the show. First question I always ask is, can you remember your gateway into horror, movies, things like that? You know, something that stands out to you as like the first moment that all this captured your mind?
Well, definitely since I was a young kid. I was born in 1992, so I do have a pretty good memory of going to the video store when I was younger with my family. My older brother was a pretty big horror fan. He's 3 years older than me. So, you know, he kind of first introduced me to a lot of the, classic 80s and 90s titles. And he would rent a bunch of them, and I would just sort of follow along in the video store. So those memories back in the video store in like the mid to late 90s and stuff like that, of seeing stuff that he would rent and just seeing and browsing the covers on the shelves on my own back in the day. Those are, going back very, very early. Those are the first, the true origins of when I started getting involved in horror. And then, in the later years, it just kind of sort of came full circle once again.
And I guess growing up then, had you always kind of been or had that collector's mindset? Was there anything in particular that you were like, an avid collector of?
I think so. I think, there was always a part of me that liked collecting stuff. I'm just, it really appealed to just like the organized part of my personality. I liked filing things away, I liked having things, stacked a certain way in my room and stuff like that. So when I got older and I actually had, money to buy stuff on my own now, it just sort of seemed like that was bound to happen, like that I was going to find a niche to start collecting for. VHS tapes, it wasn't the first thing I started with. Me and my brother started collecting like retro video games first. Mm-hmm. And then VHS tapes sort of became like a natural transition after that. And it just, it triggered all of those dormant memories of mine that I forgot about, all these covers that I hadn't seen in years and years. And I just fell in love with it.
Can you remember the first VHS or whatever that you rebought when you started collecting it?
There were a couple I remember when we first started collecting VHSs again. There's a few wrestling tapes that we got, and I thought that was pretty cool. But as far as horror, I remember that some of the first ones that we got for our collection were Tales from the Crypt Demon Night. That cover, stood out to me from the video store for many, many years. That was when they made an imprint on me. When I saw it again around like 2012, 2013, it just, it slips through the cracks. You don't see these things for years and years. And when you see these covers again, it's like, whoa, like I can't remember, or I can't, believe I'm seeing this again. Like I remember this from 15, 20 years ago. So Tales from the Crypt Demon Night was one, and of course all the classic Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, the Halloweens, Child's Play, stuff like that. Just, the memories were just dormant. When I saw these covers again, I'm like, oh my God, I need these. I remember these. They're really hitting on something deep within me. So yeah, that's sort of how it all began.
And for the handful of people that listen to this that won't know what Nostalgia Video is, in your own words, Could you explain a little bit about what it's all about?
Yeah. So it's basically I started to expand a room in the basement into just my like collector's room, and over time it gradually evolved to where we started to put up shelves on the walls and put the tapes facing face cover forward, and it started to resemble like a little video store. And over time I saw the possibility to expand what little space we had into something much larger. I came up with this idea to knock down one of the walls, expand it over, and basically turn this into a pretty sizable area. And the ideas just kept like snowballing and what I can do with this. And I started to just basically turn it into what I remember Blockbuster looking like. So this little collector's room slowly but surely started to evolve into what you see today on Instagram and what I call nostalgia video. And it's basically like a video store replica or a mock video store right in my basement. So yeah, I grew up with Blockbuster, and I just tried to make nostalgia video in my basement look as much like that as possible.
And is there anything in particular that I guess you can look to as why you were so passionate about something like this? Like I'm a huge physical media person as well, and I have so many fond memories of the video store and all that kind of stuff. And I always kind of feel like I'm looking back at that all the time, and I always kind of bring up that era all the time. Is that what kind of ignited your passion for this? Like, because what you've done is like amazing. Like I see things like Slashback Video and stuff in LA, and like this is on par with those, like, you see those huge attractions or museums or whatever you want to call them. Like what would you say was the driving force behind that passion?
Well, me and my brother, we were very firmly into collecting when this started. Like I said, we were doing the retro game thing, and we were going very intensely with that. But, with just the law of diminishing returns, you get to a certain point where, you have so much and you're not really buying as much as you were when you first started out. So there's definitely, we were just addicted to the high of getting like these things that we loved from years ago. And that's the natural transition to VHS tapes just sort of happened on its own. It just sort of felt right. We moved from video games into tapes. And, that's, as far as like the inspiration around the time, James Rolfe, who goes by the Angry Video Game Nerd on YouTube, he had done something similar around like 2013 or so. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. He transformed his basement into a video store. And already having a small space in our own basement, I saw the possibility of doing something similar. I'm like, oh my God, that is just the coolest thing. Like, I would love to do something like this in my own basement. And then the idea started to flow. I'm like, I really think we can do this here. And then next thing you know, it basically just, exploded. But yeah, there's a lot of different things to point to. Just being firmly in the collector's mindset. At the time when this all started, James Rolfe, as far as like an inspiration. So just a lot of different things to point to.
And would you say, is there a piece in the collection, or is there something that stands out as like your personal favorite?
It's funny. Someone actually just asked me that last night in the comment section of the latest post, I think. And I actually sat down and thought about it. I'm like, what? That is a great question, because I have so much crap at this point. Like, I don't know what I would pick. Probably, a lot of pieces have sentimental value, and sort of the first thing that pops into my head is my copy of the Monster Squad on VHS. Mm-hmm. When I was about 3 or 4 years old, I would rent it from, it wasn't Blockbuster at the time. It was, just one of those off-brand ones, something called probably like West Coast Video, something like that. And I would rent the Monster Squad literally like week after week after week. Like, I'd return it after the 3-4 day limit or whatever it was, and then I just rent it out again. And the staff, after a while, they realize that like I'm the only person that's renting this. I'm completely obsessed with it, and I went in to return it / rent it again one time, and they're like, they basically just gifted it to me. They're like, this is yours now. You could have it. So I've had that tape in my own personal collection since about 1995, 1996. It's that same copy from the video store.
Wow.
And that I always just kind of look to as like a special sort of, piece in the whole collection.
I love that. Do you think, what do you think it says, I guess, about the state of maybe movies and culture in general? And I don't mean this in a negative way, but the fact that, vinyl is a $1 billion industry again. Obviously now, you see tapes are on the rise again. I know over here, at least in Europe and stuff, cassette tapes are starting to become a thing again. What do you think that is, that there's, people are longing for these callbacks?
Well, I definitely think there's a large portion of people that are nostalgic for that time period. And then you also just can't discredit the part that there is a bit of a portion that it's trendy right now, and you might get what you would call hipsters sort of jumping on and using sort of some things for clout and whatnot. But that's only natural. You see it in other areas, like the video game market has boomed in a similar way, and same thing what I've heard about comics and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different combinations of factors that go into why this has exploded again. But at the end of the day, I think, after a few years pass and the dust settles, so to speak, what you're going to see is a large pool of people that are just extremely passionate about the VHS format, much like people are passionate about vinyl. There's something special about utilizing this media and the memories that it conjures up, that the feel, the sound, something just triggers something that feels right inside. So yeah, a lot of different combinations of factors that go into why I think this is boom. But at the end of the day, I think it's been driven by people that just have a true love for the things that they grew up with.
Yeah, and so when you're picking something up for your collection, like I seen a while back there, you posted some shots of Spider-Man figures, old Spider-Man figures. When you're doing something like that, do you go out with the intention of looking for specific things, or is it just a case of, you're online or you're out somewhere and you spot something like that and you're like, oh yeah, I remember this, and just kind of pick it up?
I have a pretty good idea of like what I'd like to collect. I have like a notes section on my phone with like checklists of different categories I want to collect for and whatever. But mainly it's just the stuff that I'm interested in. I definitely don't go around looking for things that would be like, oh, this would be cool to post on Instagram. My interests and my passions basically come first, and then I like to share them with everyone else. And fortunately, people have found it interesting, or they find it cool too. So I just kind of lucked out in that respect. But yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of things that I'm looking to collect still. Finishing certain collections and crossing things off my checklist. So it's probably going to be going for quite some time still.
Yeah, and I think the fact that you're about to hit a big milestone actually on Instagram with 100K. And I think the fact that, what you've just said about, your passions and what you're interested in kind of comes first. And then it's been nice to share it, and there's a community. I think it really, it feeds into something that I've been saying for years now about, I just feel like when I look back to a certain time period, there's a magic missing from movies. I used to be a big wrestling fan. I also think that the wrestling scene, there's just something that spark, and maybe even culture in general. Like you had the Attitude Era, WCW, right. And like even advertising and promo for movies, like we had toys, books, stickers, all these different things, and it's just kind of fallen by the wayside. Do you feel the same, like that there's just something, I don't know, I can never really put my finger on it, but it just feels like there's something missing. Even when I watch something like The Mummy from '99. There's just a
Right.
feel to movies like that I feel like we just don't get nowadays.
I understand completely what you're saying. I think about that all the time too. And, there's the part of me that wants to say that, things are just worse off. Like we've lost quality. Things just aren't the same anymore. But then I try to play devil's advocate with myself and thinking like, am I just looking through like my own biased lens here? And like maybe the kids today think of it just, that they enjoy it just fine, like in the same way that we enjoyed stuff when we were kids. So I don't know. Like, I don't know if there is a right answer. You know what I mean? I don't know if that could ever be proven, but subjectively, it definitely does feel that way. And I'm right with you. And wrestling is a great thing to point to as far as the product right now feels very polished. It feels very, the focus is on basically making money rather than, fan services is like a secondary sort of priority. And back in the Attitude Era, like you were saying, WCW, WWF, and it was much more gritty. I feel like they were trying to appeal to the fans much more. So I don't know. You know what I mean? I know where you're coming from, and I waver on that exact thing all the time.
Yeah, and it's something that I think about an awful lot, and kind of exactly what you said. I have these conversations with people, and they'll always try and play devil's advocate with me, and I wouldn't say necessarily I hate the modern era, but like right now, for example, I'm sitting here wearing a Brood t-shirt.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just something like even when I think back to like the Brood, for example, and the different factions in WWF, and you had the whole WCW crossover thing, and I don't know, it's exactly like you said. I feel like that they were putting the fans and the product kind of first, and then the money and how commercial it was kind of secondary.
Yeah.
Do you think we can? Is there a way to go back? I know AEW, a lot of people reckon that was going to be the thing, but do you think we can ever get back to that again?
Yeah, I 100% do. Because in terms of wrestling, first off, I think, obviously it's important to note that the culture is very, very different now. They can't get away with certain things, obviously, that they could get away with back in the day. So I think the thing that drove the success of WWF and WCW was they were fighting for their lives. They were both trying to put each other out of business. It was so cutthroat. And I don't think that WWF would have gone the Attitude Era route with the hot chicks in bikinis, the middle fingers, the beer, all the violence. I don't think they would have gone that route whatsoever if they didn't have intense competition breathing down their neck, basically putting them on the verge of bankruptcy. So at the end of the day, it becomes like eat or be eaten. And in the hypothetical situation where, let's say AEW, for example, gets some sort of insane boom period like WCW in 1996, and they overtake WWE in most of the major, most of the major areas that concern the companies, I think absolutely that you would see WWE revert to their old ways of the Attitude Era and bring back a much more edgier, fan service driven product, because at that point it's either you go that route or you're out of business. And I would hope that most of their sponsors and stuff like that would understand that sort of logic. Mm-hmm. So competition is a good thing, and I think that transcends into most areas of entertainment as well.
Yeah, were you a big wrestling fan, or are you a big wrestling fan still?
Definitely was a big wrestling fan. I'm right with you as far as like, I grew up in that Attitude Era, like the Brood and all that stuff. So around much like many kids my age, around like 2005, I started getting out of it because, the Cena era was ushering in, and it was on the, it was just changing, it was getting different. And then after the Chris Benoit thing, the product got very, very, PC and stuff like that. It just wasn't the same. So I do still keep up with like the dirt sheets and stuff like that. But I just cannot sit down and watch, most of what WWE is putting out. It's not that all of it is terrible, but it's just so much to consume. I do keep up with AEW. I'll try to watch their pay-per-views because it's a little easier to digest with, they give you less, which makes you want more, that sort of thing. But yeah, much more. If I do sit down and watch wrestling, it's all my old tapes, stuff from the network from, 20, 30 years ago, stuff like that. So I'm very, very locked in the past, much like everything else.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. And it's like, I wouldn't consider myself a wrestling fan anymore. And I used to be like the biggest wrestling fan on the planet.
Yeah.
Like I still have an entire attic
Absolutely.
full. And it's like, I just feel like though, anytime I want to watch wrestling, I have to go back. Now I will say in recent times, I have watched AEW quite a bit. And, I've even found myself looking at Matt Cardona and things like that on GCW and all these different things.
Yeah.
And I feel like the popularity of that, obviously, it's not at the scale of something like WWE, but I think the fact that people get so excited about things like that kind of shows what you were saying about like, it might be a good idea to start to kind of go back that way a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think they're sort of playing a dangerous game where everything looks great on the books, but basically they're turning their fans away in the long run. And I think that's exactly why an AEW popped up. One specific example I can point to, which really sort of led me to sour on like the WWE, and I didn't want to. Like, I'm right with you. Like, I was a longtime WWE fan. I was a WWE fan more so than WCW back in the day. Like, I want to be a diehard fan of theirs. But one specific example I can point to would be WrestleMania 29 when they did the Rock versus Cena rematch after the previous year was billed once in a lifetime, all that. And, they take the belt off of CM Punk at the time, who was doing incredible work. I thought they had a great opportunity to do sort of just different matchups. Like, they could have done Brock Lesnar versus The Rock or, CM Punk versus The Rock at WrestleMania. But they opted for the biggest cash grab, which was to do the rematch again. And all the fans hated it. Like, the match was not very good. The Rock got injured. It was, the finisher reversal sort of spots that were going on. It was just not good. But they made a lot of money. But was it really worth it for them in the end? Because I think decisions like that is exactly why an AEW popped up. It's exactly why the indies started heating up in the years after that time period. So yeah, that's just sort of my thoughts. I think they're playing a dangerous game, and they need to really value fan service. And the love of nostalgia should be like very telling for the company that this is what the fans want. This is what they miss. We need more of this style. And maybe it's time to revisit it.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, it's strange because sometimes, like, I'll see something on YouTube or whatever, or I'll see people tweeting or different things like that, and it's like, part of me feels like, is there somebody in the company who kind of has an idea? Like, you see things like Royal Rumble and, Hurricane comes out and he gets the biggest pop out of everybody. Or, like Edge comes out with the Brood entrance again and everybody's going crazy. And it's like, is nobody watching this and being like, wait a second, just doing a tiny little callback here and there isn't actually enough. Maybe we should start to really sit down and think about, what we need to do here.
Exactly. And, what's interesting, and I think is a good thing to look at is, you look at how well Spider-Man No Way Home did. And if there's one way to sum that movie up, it's fan service. Yeah. We've never seen a movie like that before where, they bring back characters and incarnations like of a dead franchise and interject them into the new one. I mean, we've never seen anything like that before. Like, that is fan service 101. And then, you look what happens. It goes on to break insane amount of records. So that is sort of like what, like, I liken it to WWE. Like, if they would apply similar principles, then I think they would really start to basically win back the trust of their audience in a lot of ways. And yeah, I mean, there's just so much more you can, that they can tap into. I'm right there with you. I agree with everything that you're saying. There's got to be people in the company that are thinking like, this is the route that we should go. But at the same time, I also think WWE it's a weird sort of thing where the entire company has taken on the whole identity of one person, and that's obviously Vince McMahon. You don't really see companies like become egoic, like in themselves. Like, they're very petty, very egoic and stubborn, and that's not like, that's not the way to do business. But I'm just I don't want to get over my head here. I'm a guy in a basement video store telling $1 billion company how to make money. So, but that's just one man's opinion.
But well, I don't think so. I think there's probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people that would agree. Do you have a favorite WWF pay-per-view, or any like particular moment that sticks out as like like that was so badass?
Oh man, well, 2 years that I really love watching, and I feel like I go back the most to, is probably 1998 and 2000. I feel like those 2 years just were producing, entertaining pay-per-view after entertaining pay-per-view. It was just like every pay-per-view was just, it was very, very memorable. But one pay-per-view that was just sort of like the culmination of, it seems like, my childhood, and I think everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people would agree. They've had similar experiences. Was WrestleMania 17 was just so excellent. The Rock versus Austin, you can't get a bigger main event than that. That feels like it was just my peak childhood. I was about, I believe I was 7 years old at the time that happened, and or nine years old rather. I'm sorry, and it just felt like, that was just the peak of my childhood right there.
Yeah, that's definitely one I think that sticks out for a lot of people. And like you said, it really captures the time, and it had such a vast array of different, like, I think that wasn't that the one that had like the triple threat Kane, Raven, and Big Show hardcore match and stuff.
yeah. Like, even a match as simple as that, like, we remember it to this day. We remember Raven getting thrown through that glass window and, him almost, turning off the power to the whole event and stuff. You don't remember the matches today. I mean, it could be me being biased, but you don't remember those undercard matches like on Extreme Rules in 2018, say. But it was just very, there's something magical about that time period.
Yeah, 100%. Do you have comfort horror movies, or something like that you find yourself going back to over and over again, or you can stick on in the background while you're working or whatever?
I definitely do. Comfort movies are a big thing for me. I try to save the classics for September and October, that sort of thing. So I really only watch them like once a year to keep them special. But the Nightmare on Elm Street, basically 1 through 3. Halloween 4, I watch quite often during the Halloween season. And Friday the 13th part 8, I really love. I think that's a really fun one. It's so bad it's good, that sort of thing. But yeah, those are just some off the top of my head. I definitely have a lot of comfort horror movies, just comfort movies in general.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. And I guess kind of segueing from that question then, would you say that you have any unpopular horror opinions? Is there, I know some people would probably consider some of the things you've mentioned, but is there a movie maybe that you love that mainstream audiences think was absolute trash, or even horror fans think is trash?
Oh man, well, this isn't really a controversial answer by any means, but Halloween 3 could be divided amongst some. I think it's not divided among the horror community much anymore. Most of us recognize that it is much better than what the initial impression was from the mainstream. So that's one off the top of my head. I'd have to think a little bit more as far as like, if there's anything that I like that's really regarded as trash. I'm starting to come around on, some horror movies that I had, more negative opinions on earlier on in my life. Friday the 13th, Part 5, the one where, Jason is not technically in it. He's only in dream sequences, stuff like that. That one I didn't like at all at first, but I'm starting to come around more so now. I love the 1985 production quality. It still feels right in line with the rest of the Friday the 13th movies. So I'm starting to like it more for what it is, and, it's just not, hating on it because Jason isn't in it, stuff like that. So just like it for what it is. So Halloween 3, Friday the 13th, Part 5, those are two that sort of stick out for me.
Funny random story, actually. I found out only recently that, so I'm from a small town in the southeast of Ireland called Wexford, and the guy who played Mr. Cochran from Halloween 3, he's an actor called Dan O'Harley. He actually grew up like 5 minutes from where I live.
No kidding.
Yeah, in a cottage, and then obviously, he moved to the capital and then moved to the States, became an actor and whatever, but he's actually buried in the local cemetery here. I had
wow.
I had no idea.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's like a crazy thing, and like nobody ever, we have those local community pages, where they talk about different people that, came from here and whatever. Never see him mentioned. Never ever see him mentioned.
Oh, that is bizarre. It's like he just, for whatever reason, was just forgotten by,
Yeah, it's strange.
That guy's, he's regarded as a great, like, I don't know if he's classically trained, but like, he's fantastic in just about everything he does. I can't believe he's pretty much gone forgotten.
Yeah, he was in RoboCop and everything.
Yeah, which I just watched like 2 days ago, coincidentally, and he's just fantastic. So, yeah, that is weird.
That is strange. I guess so. Going forward, then, for you, what is the ultimate goal or dream? Where would you like to push this thing to?
Oh man, well that's a tough one to answer because I really never expected it to get this far. So my expectations of how far this can go are constantly being changed, and that the bar is being set higher, it seems, year after year. So I'm really just extremely fortunate to have the following that I do, because I've said countless times on the Instagram page, I never thought more than maybe like 100 people would, even if that, would find this interesting. Let alone 100,000 people at this point. So a lot of it is just chance. I would have, no one could have ever predicted like a follow from Selena Gomez and the shout out on her Instagram and stuff like that. So you never know when something like that's going to happen again. And it can just take off exponentially. So all I can do really is, continue to, share things on the platforms that people love to see. I keep a close ear to what people, want to see and what I think they're craving to see posted, stuff like that. And then continuously improve the products that I have for sale and put out new and exciting products for people. And just, just keep pushing it and see how far I can take it. I don't know. So it's sort of exciting on one hand, like how far this can go, because I never would have expected it to get to this point.
Yeah, and actually something I wanted to bring up that everybody listening to this should check out is the My Bloody Valentine 3D custom VHS. That is one of my that I would consider something that a lot of people tell me is trash that I absolutely adore. I love that movie, and I love the fact that you've done that.
I'm right with you there, man. I love that movie. It's so underrated. I think that's one of the best of the 2000s. How could you not love it? Tom Atkins is in it. My God. But, that's sort of the point I'm at right now with a lot of like the custom VHS displays. I'm going, over a lot of them and improving them, refining everything and just trying to make them, as quality as possible. And, I'm pretty much doing that same process with a lot of the products that I have out. And, just trying to provide a quality service to the VHS community and the horror community and give something back, because they've certainly given a lot to me. So I'm just forever grateful.
And I guess for fellow, creators and different things like that, I get a lot of questions to ask guests about maybe dealing with anxiety about trying to make things too perfect, or getting caught up in the whole, like, you have a huge following, dealing with not getting caught up in, like, the, I guess, pardon my French, the social media bullshit of it all. How have you dealt with that?
That's a great. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, how, like, from your point of view, is there any advice or things that you've done or maybe not done that's kind of helped you not get caught up in all that?
Oh yeah, that is definitely a great question. And I think about this quite a lot. So sort of the mindset that I take when I interact on Instagram is, the nostalgia video, it's a business. Like, this isn't my page at all. Like, this has nothing to do with me. I have no desire to be in the spotlight or a public figure of any magnitude. So, that's why I'm not featured on the page. I'm not on camera. It has nothing to do with me. So I don't interject my personal opinions. I don't, and I don't take anybody's personal opinions on any sort of matter, like, personally. You know what I mean? Like, I think of it, this is just a business. It's like a nameless, faceless sort of business. And that helps to mitigate any sort of, like, the social media bullshit, like you're saying. I think like influencers that are on camera and they are the brand, I think they have a tougher time dealing with the, like, bullshit, whatever may come their way, because it's hard to differentiate between themselves and the brand. Luckily, I am not the brand, so I don't have to deal with it as much. Not that there's much at all. I mean, the community that we've built there on the page is excellent. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's a great question. I can definitely see, how people face anxieties and pressures and stuff like that. It can be a very toxic place sometimes. But I guess my advice would just to stay a little bit detached. Mm-hmm. Just don't take things too personally. Just take a sort of more detached approach to social media.
Yeah, I guess it's a twofold question I have next. A couple of final things to ask you before I let you go.
Sure.
I guess feeding into that, there's a lot of I guess fear of people. People start to become addicted to likes and to interactions, and the more of a following they build, they kind of become addicted, and not even in an egotistical way, but you kind of feel like this, like, I've set the bar for 1,000 likes, now I need to keep that, or I need to keep that ball rolling. Has anything like that been difficult for you to deal with? And then you said earlier about, you like to be quite organized with your collection, with kind of everything, you like to file things away. Does that transfer then over into your work? Like, do you have processes of, making sure you don't procrastinate and getting stuff done, different things like that?
Sure. Oh, no, that great questions. I love talking about stuff like this. So yeah, I definitely have a little bit of OCD, maybe a lot of OCD, but there's definitely something there. But, I do stay organized with the collection and stuff, and I do try to transfer those sort of habits into my work. With, like, the website, I like to keep it very organized, and I'm constantly improving it, trying to make things, as appealing and just clean and stuff like that as possible. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, it can just be a difficult thing to navigate sometimes. Luckily, fortunately, I think what's helped me is just sort of my hobbies in my spare time. I'm really into, like, reading and meditation and just, philosophy and stuff like that. So one of the positive things that comes with that is, the ability to, like, stay grounded more and stay detached, like we were talking about. So when I go on social media and stuff like that, sometimes you can objectively see your brain gets, like, addicted to the likes and, post that performs poorly, let's say. There is the initial reaction of feeling like, like upset or like, what could I have done differently and stuff like that. But the ability to stay detached and just take an objective point of view and stay present and stuff like that, that sort of kicks me out of it like very, very quickly, where I'm like, okay, it's, I can't help the algorithm, and like, my self-worth isn't tied to any social media posts like that. It doesn't determine my value if like a post only gets a few hundred likes or something. So fortunately, I have a lot of tools in my own personal toolbox as far as like how to combat the negative sides of social media. So I guess I'm just really, really lucky to be in that position.
Mm-hmm. And I guess following on from that then, how would you deal with, I guess, and I don't want to say, I don't mean in the sense of, trolls or anything like that, but maybe naysayers, negativity. I find a lot of people who are creators of things that are considered maybe a little bit more obscure, or they have a passion for something that's maybe outside the norm. You get a lot of people, and I don't think it's even done intentionally, they're just not self-aware about it, and they kind of go, you're not going to do that, or why are you messing around collecting, stupid toys or movies or whatever,
right.
or, things like that, or, maybe pass a remark like, why don't you go get a real job? Is that something
right.
that you've had to deal with? And if so, how do you keep yourself from not getting consumed by that and, kind of thinking to yourself, yeah, maybe I should stop this, or, not allowing the outside to kind of come in?
Sure. Great question again. So, it would be just a complete lie on my end to say like, so first off, I have dealt with that sort of thing. Like, this is a very weird hobby of yours. Like, why are you doing this? Like, this isn't going to make any money. Those sort of things, those sort of, negative sort of comments, stuff like that. And it would just be a total lie to say that stuff doesn't bother you. You know what I mean? You obviously, everybody cares what other people think to a certain degree. But, in just a cliche sort of like motivational sense, like, you just keep your head down and you do what you think is right. And you stick to something that you're passionate about. And over time, you stick to it. You gradually start to prove a lot of people wrong. And I find that a lot of the negative comments and sort of like stuff like that, and not by any means, not that I get a lot, and you're just using the examples that I do have, they're sort of more coming from like a curiosity. Like, they're like, oh, you're not going to do that. No way that you're going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of, I feel like they're kind of wanting you to prove them wrong in a way. And then when you do, I find that they often turn very quickly and they're like, oh, wow, maybe I should do something like that. You know what I mean? So they're kind of looking at you to like prove them wrong, and like they want you to lead the way in some respect. So, yeah, great question. I think that's a really, it's a multi-layered sort of answer, but definitely a relevant one. These are things that definitely do happen when you're sort of going your own route in life.
Yeah, and I'm always fascinated by people who do that, and they're kind of, they're wholeheartedly committed to it. And I guess it's kind of, you'll see from at times as well where people look for positive affirmation on whether they should do something that they really want to do. And I agree with what you said about, they're nearly kind of looking for you to do the thing, or looking for some kind of approval of like, yeah, this is cool, isn't it? Or, yeah, I'm okay to enjoy this, aren't I? And like, then when somebody else that they look at kind of goes, yeah, it's fine, like I'm, do your thing, and then they kind of go, okay, okay, that takes the pressure off me.
Yeah, exactly. I heard a quote one time, and I don't remember it specifically. It was like something like, first they ridicule you, then they, insert blank, and then the last one is then they follow you.
Mm-hmm.
So you just kind of have to keep your head down, and you just don't put too much stock into what they say. People don't care that much anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're very wrapped up in their own thing. So at this point, like I said, I don't get a lot of comments like that anymore. More so starting out, I'd say people get comments like that. But yeah, just don't put too much stock into it. You just kind of do your own thing. And eventually you just prove them wrong by, the process. It'll take care of itself.
Okay, so two final things before I let you go.
Sure.
Where can people find and support you? Where's the best place? Where would you like them to check out? I do also want to say, actually, before I forget, the membership cards and the tees on there are absolutely amazing. I need to get some of them to wear around over here, man,
Thanks, man.
because that's one of those things that like we actually had Blockbuster over here as well for a long time, and then we had our own kind of. They branched into like their own version called Extravision, but it looked exactly the same.
Yeah.
And yeah, I when I had seen them, I was like, I need to get the two of those. Like it just goes to show like how powerful that nostalgia actually is. Like that it's, something as simple as that to somebody can be like, I actually need this, because every time I look at it or wear it, I'll like remember, times with my grandparents or Friday night when we go to the video store.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I really appreciate that, man. Thanks. It always feels good to have someone appreciate like, the products and stuff like that. So I really appreciate that. But, yeah, that was definitely the driving force behind it. Obviously you want to make a living and stuff like that. And, but if it benefits people to the point where they're remembering these old, they're conjuring up these old nostalgic memories. I mean, that's great. And like, that just gives me a real sense of purpose. It's like merging work and passion at the same time. So, what more could you ask for in that respect? So, but back to your first question there about, finding nostalgia video on social media and stuff. The main place where you could find nostalgia video would be on Instagram. You just search nostalgia video, you could find it there. And then our website is nostalgiavideo.net. That's where you could buy, like you said, the membership cards, the t-shirts, and then vintage VHS tapes, VHS display pieces, stuff like that. We're on TikTok as well. I'm sure it'll come up if you just search nostalgia video. And then Facebook, and that's pretty much it.
TikTok was a good move. I like that.
Yeah, you know what? And with your, just tying into your questions about navigating social media and stuff like that, that has definitely highlighted that I'm getting old. For sure. I'm only 29, but I'm like on that app and I'm like, I don't belong here.
Same as.
Like, this is not my crowd.
Same as I'm a 92 baby as well. And like, I'm not old, but for some reason I feel like I'm like, people's grandparent.
Yeah, yeah. And the algorithm on there is very intense too. I mean, if you watch one video, your entire feed is just filled with that specific subject. So, I mean, you stumble upon the wrong video and watch it for longer than 10 seconds, like, your whole feed is just going to be full with that. And so what I try to do is I try to delete the app in between posting so I don't waste too much time on there.
Yeah, and I have to say it's I've always known social media was built for that essentially, but TikTok are really on the pulse with like, just having people drooling, staring at this thing all day.
Oh yeah, for sure. They've got the algorithm and the dopamine button pushers. They're honed in.
Yep. Final question then. I normally ask why horror, but I don't know if that's, I guess, too narrow for you. Maybe why horror or why nostalgia, and what does it mean to you personally? I know we've talked a lot about, the kind of love and positivity and stuff you want to spread to other people, but for you personally, what does it mean?
Well, I think the horror aspect is a real big part of like my love for nostalgia. There's just something about watching horror movies on VHS. It's just different. That sort of like less than perfect format of VHS with the tracking lines and the hum of the VCR and stuff like that. It just feels like it fits so perfectly with horror movies, which are, meant to be gritty and, that sort of thing. And that's what I grew up with. Horror VHS has always had the best cover art. So it all just sort of ties in at the end of the day. It just feels right. That's the best way I can put it. Horror, VHS, and then, all these memories from my childhood. It feels like the right pursuit. Like I'm wired for it, and it gives me a lot of joy.
Yeah, I love asking those questions because everyone has, I feel like the answer is nearly always the same, or I can relate to the answer, but the answer is always different.
Yeah. it's more of a feeling, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
you could just resonate with someone's answer. So I'm right there with you.
Nick, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I could talk to you for hours because I've had to kind of pull back my incoherent ramblings because I could just go off on one specific topic, especially to do with nostalgia.
No. I'm right there with you, man. Yeah, likewise. It's been a pleasure. It's been real fun. I feel the same way. I feel like we're really resonating on most topics. You could just kind of sort of get that feeling when you're talking about nostalgia and wrestling and stuff like that. So we'll have to do this again one day. We'll have to do a part 2 and expand upon these topics here.
Yes, I would love that. I'd appreciate that. For everybody listening, as always, whichever podcast platform you're listening to this on, all the links to Nick's stuff will be down below. And check him out, support him. Even if you can't buy something or whatever, make sure to share or just comment on some of the videos and stuff like that. I guess I wish you all the best. I can't wait to see you break your milestone. Have you broken the milestone yet of 100K?
Not yet. We're knocking on the door. A couple more weeks, it seems.
So everybody listening to this, go straight away to Instagram, look up Nostalgia Video, and make sure to follow Nick so he can hit the 100K ASAP.
Thanks again, Aaron. It's been a pleasure, man.
Thanks, buddy. You too.
Evil wears many masks, but pure horror wears only one. Support First Class Horror on Patreon for as little as $1. Can't get enough of the horror? Carve yourself a deal from official merchandise, only on Teespring. Join us on all social media at First Class Horror. We have such sights to show you.